This video was made possible by Skillshare. Get unlimited access to over 25,000 classes for free for 2 months by signing up at skl.sh/RealLifeLore25. Whenever you're flying in an airplane and you're looking out the window, you generally feel pretty safe. Air travel, after all, is statistically the Air travel, after all, is statistically the safest way that you can travel. But what happens during the rare times when it's not safe? And how could you survive if, say, the plane exploded up in the air and you had to fall all the way down to the ground without a parachute? It seems impossible, but surprisingly, people have done it before, and none have fallen from a higher distance than Vesna Vulovic, the woman who survived a fall from 33,000 feet up in the sky. Vulovic was born in Belgrade in what was then Yugoslavia and became a flight attendant for JAT, which was Yugoslavia's national airline. Less than 1 year after she had gotten the job, and at the young age of only 22, she was a part of the flight crew on JAT Flight 367 on January 26, 1972. The plane was flying from Stockholm to Belgrade, with 2 stopovers along the way scheduled in Copenhagen and Zagreb. And it was in Copenhagen where the original crew was cycled out with Vulovic's crew. It was a fateful accident because Vulovic wasn't even supposed to be on the flight, but the company had apparently mistaken her with another flight attendant also named Vesna. Regardless, she and her crew boarded the flight anyway, and the plane took off from Copenhagen towards Zagreb. The flight initially went smoothly and everything was calm for a while, but 46 minutes into the flight, when the plane was just above the town of Srpska Kamenica in Czechoslovakia, something unusual happened. A bomb went off in the plane's luggage compartment. The plane was cruising at an altitude of 33,330 feet when the explosion took place, and as a result, the entire plane broke apart into pieces. There were 28 people on board the plane, counting all passengers and crew members. The cabin immediately became depressurized, and everybody was blown out to fall down to their deaths except for Vulovic. At the height of 33,330 feet, the height that everybody had to fall from was essentially the same as Mount Everest, with Mount Washington in New Hampshire stacked on top. Vulovic, however, had a series of almost miraculous events on her side that saved her life. First, when the explosion happened, she was hit by a food cart that pinned her down in the back of the plane fuselage. This prevented her from getting blown out of the cabin like what had happened to everybody else. After falling in a horrific freefall the entire 33,000 feet pinned inside, the fuselage landed at an angle in a heavily forested mountainside covered in a thick layer of snow that helped to insulate the landing. Further, Vulovic suffered from very low blood pressure. This caused her to pass out and lose consciousness the moment the bomb went off and the cabin depressurized. This also prevented her heart from bursting by the force of the crash impact on the mountainside. Vulovic had lied about her heart condition during her interview at JAT out of fear of not getting the job, and had apparently drank a, quote, exorbitant amount of coffee to pass her medical exam. A local Czech villager who lived nearby quickly arrived at the scene of the crash to search for survivors, and discovered Vulovic alive inside of the wreckage. She had been screaming and her turquoise uniform was covered in blood. While Vulovic was indeed alive, she had suffered a fractured and hemorrhaged skull. Both of her legs were broken, her pelvis was shattered. She had several broken ribs and 3 broken vertebrae, but still alive. She may have died from her injuries inside of the wreckage, and we would have never known that she survived the fall at all, were it not for the local villager who discovered her and who just happened to have been a medic during the Second World War. He managed to keep her alive long enough for emergency services to arrive that took Vulovic to the closest hospital, and it was there that they managed to save her life. She suffered a coma for a month and had complete amnesia of everything that had happened 1 hour prior to the crash, up to the moment that she woke up again. The last thing that she remembered were the passengers getting on board the plane. She woke up to her parents, who had to show her a newspaper article about the crash before she believed what had actually happened to her. The bombing of JAT Flight 367 was likely part of a terror campaign conducted by Croatian nationalists against the Yugoslav government. The very same day of the plane bombing, a train traveling from Vienna to Zagreb was also bombed. Croatian nationalists carried out a total of 128 terror attacks against Yugoslav civilian and military targets between 1962 and 1982. However, nobody was ever held accountable for the bombing of JAT Flight 367, and to date, no arrests or suspects have ever been made in connection with the attack. As for Vesna Vulović, she continued to live a long life after she survived the impossible. Every year after that was kind of like a bonus year that she could enjoy afterwards. She regained her ability to walk only 10 months after the crash, and she spent a total of 16 months in recovery. Her parents had to sell both of their family cars in order to pay for her medical bills, but still, she was alive. Since she had no memory of the fall, she never developed a fear of flying and wanted to continue being a flight attendant. The airline feared the publicity of having her on board another plane though, so they moved her down into a desk job. Vesna Vulović became a kind of celebrity in Yugoslavia afterwards, who was celebrated as a hero across communist Europe and the Soviet Union. She was never able to have children of her own due to complications from her injuries, and she was fired from JAT in the 1990s for taking part in anti-government protests against Slobodan Milosevic. In what's possibly the lamest smear campaign ever conducted in history, pro-Milosevic tabloids attacked her story by claiming that her plane had actually been shot down by a Czechoslovak missile, and that she had actually only fallen from a slightly lesser altitude. Regardless, her facts won out, and she continued to live her life until 2016, where she passed away in her apartment from her heart complications. She was 66 years old, and she died 44 years after she was supposed to die aboard JAT Flight 367. The Reaper comes for everybody eventually, but sometimes people like Vesna Vulović say no, not today, and the Reaper had to wait 44 more years before he came knocking again. Life is full of second, third, or fourth chances, and they don't always have to be so dramatic. Sometimes you may just want to get another chance with a new job, a new hobby, or a new passion, but those all often require you to learn a new set of skills that you haven't experienced yet. I've been wanting to actually film more videos for this channel lately, so I've been taking a course on Skillshare called DIY Cinematography Make Your Video Look Like a Movie by Ryan Booth, a filmmaker who's worked on projects for MTV and Spotify. If you're an aspiring filmmaker too, then I highly recommend checking out that class, but even if you're not, Skillshare has over 25,000 classes on an enormous variety of different subjects. So if there's something that you've been wanting to learn, then there's a good chance that they have a course on it. The best news is that whatever it is you're wanting to learn, there's no risk to check it out, because you can watch any of their courses completely for free for 2 entire months when you click the link in the description or by heading over to skl.sh/RealLifeLore25. So go ahead and check them out and learn something cool and new, and thank you for watching.